The 3rd of March, 1902, Volume 4, Chastisements Unnecessary. As I was in my usual state, my adorable Jesus was not coming, and I felt I was dying from his absence. Then, around the last hour, moved to compassion for me, he came, and kissing me, told me, "My daughter, it is necessary that sometimes I do not come. Otherwise, how would I give vent to my justice? And men, seeing that I do not chastise them, would do nothing but grow ever bolder. Therefore wars, slaughters are necessary. The beginning and the means will be most painful, but the end will be most cheerful. Besides, you know that the first thing is resignation to my will." End of the reading. The 3rd of March, 1912, Volume 11. One who lives in the divine will acquires the temperament of Jesus, and with it all its divine qualities, which will be as many melodies in heaven. These souls are the purpose of all the things that Jesus did. Continuing in my usual state, my adorable Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, the soul who does my will loses her temperament and acquires mine, just as in my temperament there are many melodies which form the paradise of the blessed, such that music is my sweet temperament, music the goodness, music the sanctity, music the beauty, the power, the wisdom, the immensity, and so on with all the rest of my being. The soul receives within herself all the variety of these melodies, taking part in all the qualities of my temperament. As she goes along doing even the most tiny actions, she makes a melody for me, and as I hear it, I immediately recognize this music as one taken by the soul from my will, my temperament. So I run to listen to it, and I like it so much that I remain recreated and cheered from all the wrongs which other creatures do to me. My daughter, what will happen when these melodies will pass into heaven? I will put the soul in front of me. I will play my music, and she will play her own. We will flash each other lightning. The sound of one will be the echo of the sound of the other. The harmonies will mix together. It will be clearly known to all the blessed that this soul is nothing less than the fruit of my will, the portent of my will, and all heaven will enjoy one more paradise. These are the souls to whom I keep repeating, had I not created heaven, I would create it only for you, because I place in them the heaven of my will, and I make of them the true images of myself, and I go wandering in these heavens, delighting and playing with them. To these heavens I repeat, had I not left myself in the sacrament, for you alone I would have done it, because they are my true hosts. Just as I could not live without a will, in the same way I could not live without these heavens of my will. Rather, they are not only my true hosts, but the purpose of my Calvary and my own life. These heavens of my will are more dear to me and more privileged than the tabernacles and the consecrated hosts themselves, because in the host my sacramental life ends as the species is consumed, while in these heavens of my will, the life of my will never ends. They serve as my hosts on earth, and they will be my eternal hosts in heaven. To these heavens of my will I add, had I not incarnated myself in the womb of my mother, for these souls alone I would have incarnated myself, and for these I would have suffered my passion, because I find in them the true fruit of my incarnation and passion. End of the reading. The 3rd of March, 1919, Volume 12, The Terrestrial Eden and the Divine Eden. Continuing in my usual state, I was all immersed in the divine volition, and my always lovable Jesus came and pressed me to his heart, telling me, "You are my firstborn daughter of my will. How dear and precious you are in my eyes. I will keep you so guarded that if in creating man I prepared a terrestrial Eden, for you I have prepared a divine Eden. If in the terrestrial Eden the union between the first ancestors was human, and I gave them the most beautiful delights of the earth of their enjoyment, while they enjoyed me at intervals, in the divine Eden, the union is divine. I will make you enjoy the most beautiful celestial delights, and you will enjoy me as much as you want. Even more, I will be your life, and we will share the same contentments, the joys, the sweetnesses, and if needed, also the pains. The enemy had access to the terrestrial Eden, and the first sin was committed. In divine Eden, entrance is precluded to the devil, to passions, and to weaknesses. Even more, he does not want to enter it, knowing that my will would burn him more than the very fire of hell. And upon merely feeling the sensation of my will, the enemy flees. In my will, you will give a start to the first acts in the divine manner, acts which are immense, eternal, infinite, and embrace everything and everyone. And I, interrupting Jesus, said, "Jesus, my love, the more you speak about this divine will, the more I become confused and fearful, and I feel such annihilation as to feel destroyed, and therefore unable to correspond to your designs." And he, all goodness, added, "It is my will that destroys the human in you, and instead of fearing, you should fling yourself into the immensity of my will. My designs upon you are high, noble, and divine, the very work of creation. Oh, how it remains behind this work of calling you to live in the divine will, to live not a human, but a divine life. This is a greater outpouring of my love. It is my love constrained by creatures, and unable to contain it any longer, I pour it out in torrents upon one who loves me. And in order to be sure that my love is not rejected and beaten up, I call you in my will, so that neither you nor what is mine may remain without their full effect and fully defended. My daughter, do not sadden the work of your Jesus with your fears, and continue the flight there where I call you." End of the reading. The 3rd of March, 1922, Volume 14, The Celestial Farmer Sows His Word. Continuing in my usual state, my sweet Jesus came, but without saying anything, all taciturn and afflicted to the summit. And I, "What is it, Jesus, that you don't speak? If you are my life, your word is my food, and I cannot fast. I'm very weak, and I feel the continuous necessity of food in order to grow and maintain myself strong." And Jesus, all goodness, told me, "My daughter, I too feel the necessity of some food, and after I have nourished you with my word, that same word chewed by you, being converted into blood, makes food for me germinate. And if you cannot fast, neither do I want to fast. I want the return of the food that I gave you, and then I will come back again to nourish you. I feel very hungry. Hurry, let me satisfy my hunger." I remained confused, and I didn't know what to give him, since I have never had anything. Jesus, with both hands, took my heartbeat, my breath, my thoughts, affections, and desires, which had turned into many little globes of light, and ate them, saying, "This is the fruit of my word. These are my own things. It is just that I eat them." Then he seemed to take a little rest, and afterwards he added, My daughter, now it is appropriate that I get down to work again, to work the soil of your soul, so as to be able to sow the seed of my word with which to feed you. I act like a farmer when he wants to sow in his field. He forms little trenches, makes the furrows, and casts the seed into them. Then he again covers with earth the little trenches and furrows in which he has sown the seeds, so as to keep them sheltered and give them the time to germinate, to then harvest them increased 100-fold and make of them his food. But he is careful not to put in too much earth, otherwise he would cause his souls to suffocate and die under the earth, and he would run the risk of remaining on an empty stomach. Now, so I do. I prepare the little trenches. I form the furrows. I enlarge the capacity of her intelligence to be able to sow my divine word, and therefore form the food for me and for her. And then I cover the little trenches and furrows with earth, which is humility, nothingness, the annihilation of the soul, and some little weakness or misery of hers. This is the earth, and it is necessary that I take it from her, because I lack this earth, and so I cover everything, and I wait for my harvest with joy. Now, do you want to know when too much earth is placed over the seed? When the soul feels her miseries, her weaknesses, her nothingness, and she afflicts herself. She thinks about it so much as to waste time, and the enemy uses this in order to throw her into disturbance, discouragement, and despondency. All this is earth in excess over my seed. Oh, how my seed feels like dying, how it struggles to germinate under this earth. Many times these souls tire the celestial farmer, and he withdraws. Oh, how many are the souls like these? And I, my Lord, am I one of these? And he, no, no. One who does my will is not subject to forming earth that suffocates my seed. Rather, many times I find not even humility in her, but only her nothingness, which produces little earth, so I can place just one layer over my seed. And the sun of my will soon fecundates it, and it germinates, and I make great harvests, to then quickly return to sow my seed again. Besides, you can be sure of this. Don't you see how often I return to sow new seeds of truth into your soul? Now, as he was saying this, sadness appeared on the face of Jesus. Taking me by the hand, he carried me outside of myself and showed me deputies and ministers, all distraught, as if they had prepared a big fire and were wrapped in its flames themselves. One could see sectarian leaders who, tired of waiting before railing against the church, wanted either to be left free to wage bloody wars against it or to withdraw from the government. They felt the ground missing under their feet because of financing as well as other things, and in order not to make a bad impression, they wanted to withdraw from holding the lot of the nation. But who can say everything? Jesus, all sorrowful, said, terrible, terrible is the preparation. They want to do things without me, and everything will serve to confuse them. End of the reading. The creature in whom the divine will reigns calls God to operate together with her and gives him the glory of that very happiness with which he invested the human acts. The offering of one's actions to God purifies them and disinfects them. I was offering my little acts as homage of adoration and of love to the Supreme Volition, and I thought to myself, but is it really true that whatever the soul does, the divine will does, God himself does? What glory can he receive after I've offered to him my little work and everything I may do, from coming to do it together with me? And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, don't you feel me within you as I follow your acts? Indeed, wherever my will reigns, all things, even the most little and natural, convert into delight for me and for the creature, because they are the effect of a divine will reigning in her that cannot issue from itself even a shadow of unhappiness. Even more, you must know that in creation, our supreme fiat established all the human acts, investing them with delight, with joy, and with happiness. So work itself was to be of no burden for man, nor give him a shadow of tiredness, because by possessing my will, he possessed the strength that never tires and never fails. See, created things also are symbol of this. Does the sun perhaps tire of always giving its light? Certainly not. Does the sea tire of murmuring continuously, of forming its waves, of nourishing and multiplying its fish? Certainly not. Do the heavens tire of remaining always stretched out, or the earth of flowering? Certainly not. But why do they not get tired? Because in them there is the power of the divine fiat that has the strength that is never exhausted. Therefore, all the human acts enter the order of all created things, and all of them receive the mark of happiness, the work, the food, the sleep, the word, the gaze, the step, everything. Now, as long as man remained in our will, he remained holy and healthy, full of vigour and of untiring strength, capable of enjoying the happiness of his act and of delighting he who gave him so much happiness. As soon as he withdrew from it, he fell ill and lost the happiness, the untiring strength, the capacity and the taste to enjoy the happiness of his acts that the divine will had invested with so much love. This happens also between one who is healthy and one who is sick. The first enjoys the food, works with more energy, takes pleasure in amusing himself, in strolling around, in chatting. The one who is sick feels disgust for food, feels no strength to work, is bored by amusements. Chatting bothers him. Everything is bad for him. The sickness has changed his nature, his acts, into pains. Now suppose that the sick person returned to the vigour of his health. His strength, his taste, everything would be restored in him. So going out of my will has been the cause of his illness. Returning into it and letting it reign will be the cause of the return of the order of happiness into the human acts and of letting it take its attitude in the acts of the creature. And as she offers her work, the food she takes, and everything she does, from within those human acts is unleashed the happiness that was placed in those acts by my will, and it rises to her Creator to give him the glory of his own happiness. This is why the creature in whom my will reigns not only calls me to operate together with her, but gives me the honour, the glory of that very happiness with which we invested the human acts. And even if the creature should not possess all the fullness of the unity of the light of my will, as long as she offers her acts to her Creator as homage and adoration, since she is the one who is sick, not God, God receives the glory of the happiness of her human acts. Imagine a sick person who did some work or took a food of his and gave it to someone who's healthy. The one who enjoys the fullness of health perceives nothing, neither the tiredness of that work nor the hardship that the sick person experienced in doing it, nor the disgust for that food that the sick person would have felt had he taken it. On the contrary, in the fullness of his health, he enjoys the good, the glory, and the happiness that that work will bring to him. And he enjoys the food that has been offered to him. In the same way, the offering of one's actions purifies, disinfects the human actions, and God receives the glory due to him. and in return he makes new graces descend upon she who offers her actions to him. And in return he makes new graces descend upon she who offers her actions to him. End of the reading. The 3rd of March, 1928, Volume 23. How all things start from one point. Sublimeness of the state of Adam. Why our Lord has not manifested his happy state until now. How one who possesses the unity possesses the source of good. My poor heart was swimming in the sorrow of the privation of my sweet Jesus, and I was worried about it. I felt myself being suffocated by sorrow, and at any cost I would have wanted to find him for whom I am so tortured, so as to speak my anguishes. But while I was thinking of this, my lovable Jesus moved in my interior and told me, "My daughter, do not fear what you feel in your soul, because it is nothing other than the crafting of my divine fear is doing in you. It is enclosing everything in you, everyone and everything in you, all past and future centuries, so that everything that the Supreme Volition has done in creation may cast its seed into you to receive from you the satisfactions and the requital for all of its acts that creatures owe it. Therefore do not worry, because in each hour of your life it is centuries that my will encloses, and so it is necessary that one who must have her original act in my will reigning must have the origin of it to be able to carry out its divine life. All things start from one point, and from that point they expand and diffuse to all. See, the sun also has its first point, its centre of light, its sphere, and from its centre it fills with light the whole earth. Therefore follow my will and do not be concerned. So I continued my round in the divine will, and as I arrived at Eden to unite myself to the state of Adam before sinning, when he possessed the unity with his Creator, in order to start again my acts together with him and to make up for him and continue that unity when he lost it by falling into sin, I thought to myself, why has blessed Jesus not manifested to anyone the sublime state, the wonders that passed between Adam innocent and his Creator, the sea of the happinesses of the beauties he possessed? Everything was centralized in him. Everything started from him. Oh, if the state of Adam, his great prerogatives were known, maybe all would yearn to return to his origin from which man came. But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior, and all goodness told me, "My daughter, my paternal goodness only manifests a good when it must bring some utility to creatures. If I do not see this, why manifest it? The history of man innocent is too tender for me. In merely remembering it, my love rises, overflows and forms its huge waves, to then pour itself, as it used to pour itself upon Adam innocent, and finding no one upon whom to pour, because it does not find another Adam who would receive it, capable of giving me his outpourings of love in return, does my divine fiat, whole within him, maintain the reciprocal life of correspondence between the infinite and the finite, my love suffers, and returning my own ways of love into me, because it finds no one upon whom to pour it. It remains suffocated by my love itself. This is why I have not manifested the state of Adam innocent until now, nor did he manifest almost anything of his happy state, because in merely remembering it, he felt himself dying with sorrow, and I felt myself being suffocated by my love. Now, my daughter, wanting to restore the kingdom of my divine will, I see the utility of manifesting the state of Adam innocent, and this is the reason why I often speak to you about his sublime state, because I want to repeat what I did with him, and by virtue of my volition, I want to elevate you to the original state of the creation of man. What can the creature who possesses my fiat, the unity of it, not give me? She can give me everything, and I can give everything. So, being able to give what I manifest, my love does not suffocate my ways. On the contrary, it puts them out, and seeing them reproduced in the creature, it enjoys. And I feel drawn to manifest what is not known for their utility and good. If you knew how much I enjoy in giving, how my love celebrates when I see the creature disposed, wanting to receive my goods, you would be more attentive to let me pour out my contained love. After this, he kept silent, and I felt as though sunken in the divine volition, its wonders, what the soul can do by possessing its will, enraptured me. And I, tiny little one, swam in the sea of light of the fiat. And as I moved, so would waves of light rise, investing with tints of varied beauty that would then go to unload themselves into the womb of my Creator. And the paternal goodness, seeing himself invested by the waves of his little one, moved his waves toward me. O supreme will, how admirable you are, lovable, desirable, more than life itself. You love me so much as to put me in a contest with my Creator, wanting me to be even with He who created me. But while my mind was wandering in the fiat, my sweet Jesus added, my daughter, one who possesses the unity of my volition is free to act and to do as much good as she wants, because she has the source of good within herself. She has it at her disposal. She feels within herself the continuous touches of her Creator, the waves of his paternal love, and would feel too ungrateful if she did not form her waves. More so, since she feels her own little sea flow within her soul from the immense sea of he who created her. On the other hand, one who does not possess its unity does not possess the source. Therefore, if she wants to do some good, she needs the divine liberality in each good act she wants to do. Almost act by act, she has to ask for the grace to be able to do the good she wants to do. On the contrary, for one who possesses my unity, good converts into her own nature. And if she just wants to operate, she finds a source of good within herself and she operates. End of the reading. 3rd of March, 1929, Volume 25. How the divine will is always in the act of renewing what it did in the creation of man, how it contains the charming virtue. I was continuing my round in the divine fiat, and pausing in Eden, I was adoring the supreme will in the act of creating man, in order to unite myself to that union of wills that existed between creator and creature when he was created. And my highest good, Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, the creation of man was the most beautiful, the most solemn act of the whole creation. In the fullness of the ardour of our creating love, our fiat created in Adam all other creatures, and remained always in the act of creating and of renewing over each creature what we did over the first man. In fact, all of his descendants were to have their origin from him. And so our divine volition took on the commitment, as creatures would come out to the light, to renew our outpourings of love, to put out all of our divine qualities, and to make new displays of beauties of graces, of sanctity, of love over each one of them. So each creature was to be a new feast for us, the well-issued one, the welcomed one, and the happy increase in the celestial family. Oh, how our divine fiat rejoiced in placing itself in the act of always having to give to the creature and of renewing the magnificence, the sublimeness, and the insuperable mastery that it was to have over each creature. But because Adam went out of our divine volition, his descendants lost the way in order to come to the first act of the creation of man. And even though our divine volition has not stopped, because when we decide to do an act, no one can move us, and therefore it remains always in the act of renewing the prodigies of creation. In spite of this, it does not find anyone over whom to renew them, and it waits with a divine firmness and patience for the creature to return into its volition in order to be able to renew its act, always in act, of being able to repeat what it did in the creation of man. And as much as it awaits everyone, it only finds its little daughter, the newborn of my divine volition, who each day enters into the first act of the creation of man, when our divine being made display of all our divine qualities, to make of man the little king and our inseparable son, embellishing him with all of our divine insignia, so that all might recognize him as the greatest portent of our love. My daughter, if you knew with how much love it awaits you, to make each day your little visit in that Eden in which our fiat, taken by an impetus of love, took the attitude of feast in order to create man. Oh, how many acts it keeps repressed within itself, how many sighs of love suffocated, how many joys contained, how many beauties enclosed within itself, because there is no one who enters into this, its creating act, to take the unheard of goods it wants to give. And in seeing you who in its very divine volition have the way in order to reach into the act of the creation of man, oh, how it rejoices and feels drawn as by a powerful magnet to make itself known to creatures, so that by making my divine will reign in their midst, they may find the way in order to reach the first of the creation of man, so that it may no longer keep the goods it wants to give to creatures repressed within itself. Oh, creatures knew how many new creating acts, one more beautiful than the other, my divine fiat is about to create and issue from itself to pour them upon each one of them. Oh, how they would hasten to enter into my divine volition in order to begin their lives again in it and receive its infinite goods. Then I was following the holy divine volition, was thinking to myself, is it really true that I possess this fiat so holy? It is true that I feel I am unable to want or desire anything else, and it overflows like a sea inside and outside of me that envelops me completely in this divine fiat. And I feel that all other things do not belong to me. But who knows whether I truly possess it? But while I was thinking about this, my beloved Jesus added, my daughter, the sign that a soul possesses my will is her feeling herself the dominator of herself in such a way that her passions do not dare to move before the light of my fiat. They feel impotent to act as if they had no life. In fact, the power and sanctity of my will knocks everything down, and over the very miseries of the human will, it lays its light, its sanctity, and the most beautiful flowerings, in a way as to admirably convert miseries themselves into fecund and blessed earth that knows not how to produce thorns any more, but celestial flowers, sweet and mature fruits. And the dominion of this fortunate creature is so great that she feels the owner of God himself, of creatures, and of all created things. She has a charming virtue, such that whoever has the good of knowing her feels so bound as to be unable to be away from her. It is the power of my fiat that enclosed within her charms God, who feels happy to remain enclosed in her, and it charms creatures because they feel the balsamic fragrance of my divine will that brings true peace and true God into their hearts. What would some not do in order to have one word from you that, like light, may descend into their hearts? Therefore, be attentive and always continue your flight in my divine will. End of the readings. There are no more readings today.